of that legislation, but just taking a step back, it's symptomatic of, unfortunately, the Republicans' attack on the rule of law more broadly, and that, of course, is consistent with the actions that the Trump administration has taken in just the last 4 months, where they are very clearly on a campaign to undermine and outright attack the independence and the impartiality of the federal judiciary. And so this particular bill that you mentioned that they passed over just the last couple of days is, of course, consistent with that. And I would just say more broadly, it's important to point out the hypocrisy. None of these Republican members of Congress who so vociferously supported the bill said anything about nationwide injunctions that were issued by judges who had been appointed by President Trump against policies that President Biden had attempted to pursue in years past. Now, of course, quite convenient that they've decided that they'd like to take this step, which, as I said, would undermine the rule of law in our country.
So, the rule of law concept is interesting, but for people like you and me who have derived from people recently in other countries, this is not what America stands for, right? The reason America has investments, the reason companies invest in America, the reason people buy American treasury bonds is because it's stable, because the law is consistent from month to month and year to year. You don't have a government that suddenly decides it's throwing people out or it's imposing tariffs that they don't have a right to impose. That's rule of law. I think some people think about in a very micro fashion, but this is the macro rule of law that makes America what it is.
Yeah, you've articulated that so well, Ali, and of course it's connected, right, to the broader economic conditions that our country faces, right? Rule of law is a hallmark, sacrosanct norm in our country. It's a fundamental part of our constitutional order, and it is a hallmark of a stable democracy.
Yes.
And of course, we see right now, given the economic situation that President Trump has created, the catastrophe, the tariff chaos, and endangering the dollar as the world's reserve currency, right? All of that is connected, of course, to the various ways in which he's also undermining the Constitution and the rule of law. Those are very much not mutually exclusive of each other.
What's your sense of what Democrats need to be doing in this moment?
Well, look, I mean, you just touched on the town halls that we're going to be having over the course of the next few weeks as our Republican colleagues abandon any pretense of doing their jobs. They are running scared because they know that the policies that they are pursuing, billions of dollars in Medicaid cuts and tax cuts for billionaires, are not defensible, right? That folks are outraged in their communities, and as a result, they refuse to hold town halls. I think, as you know, Ali, I represent a very large district in western and northern Colorado. It spans 13 counties, larger than 9 states. I learned early on in my tenure, it's important to show up, and we host town halls every opportunity we can. We're having another one tomorrow. We'll be having more over the coming 2 weeks, and as you mentioned, there'll be Democratic colleagues of mine hosting town halls in Republican communities so that those Americans have an opportunity to be heard, to participate in our democracy. And my hope is that ultimately Republican colleagues of mine on the other side of the aisle will stop capitulating to the president and show up in their communities and hear from their constituents.
Congressman, always good to see you. Thank you for joining us tonight.
Good to see you.
Congressman